What up, peeps? Look, man, you got myself, you got Chris with a K. He's on time today. He was actually here about 5 minutes early. We were just talking about some other shit in the background. We got Ty, he's on today. Jay is out today, and so is Steven. Fellas, what's going on, man?
Man.
Same old,
What?
same old.
I'm really excited. I wanted to do this last week because I've been dying to do one thing, and that's to ask Ty, what did you think about Ole Miss's spring game or the lack thereof? But we'll get to that soon. I had to talk to Ty. I didn't want to
Bro,
call
they got
him
a
and get his
glizzy
reaction.
competition going on. I have no idea what the hell was happening out there.
It's going to be interesting, man. It's going to be very interesting. Hey, folks, there's some people in here. Like, comment, and subscribe to this, man. You know the motto, man. Wipe your feet before you come in the house, man. Like the video, subscribe, share it with all your best friends, man. I cannot wait till football season gets here. About 15 days or so, guys. I'm ready, man. Spring game. But Chris, how was the spring game at OU, man?
Man, I thought the spring game was actually really good. I thought it let us know some things. Excuse me. I think the defensive line is better than advertised, and I think it's going to be upgraded tremendously if you can pull Williams, right? But getting Lole was a big pickup over the weekend as well. I think Jackson Arnold looks really crisp. He looks great. Couldn't really get a good feel for everybody out there simply because offensive line does have some issues. Contrary to your belief, it does have some issues. Not crazy issues. It's just a part of one, getting guys healthy, two, getting guys integrated into the system and playing for Beat and Bow. But the biggest thing is, I mean, we got Hickman as well, so that's going to be a great addition at center as well for us going into the season if he can really get to it. But I would say skill position wise is probably the best that we've looked in a while. It's going to be a problem, Nick, and you already know, especially coming from last year, with the pass attack that you guys had with the guys that you guys had. But damn, you saw what Burks was able to do in that spring game, but you know what Burks is, what he's just advertised. But putting Nick Anderson out there, if Andrell Anthony can get back to form, he's already out there. No brace, no crutches, no none of that. Once Farouk heals from the fracture, you know what you're going to get from him. Gibson looks like he stepped it up. Petaway is going to see the field. You're going to at some point, Brendan Thompson is going to be on. You're going to have so much speed and such variety out there, and you're going to be physical too. I think tight end is another position that we're still trying to mesh out simply because Bauer Sharp is going to be the guy, but can Caden Helms actually be healthy this year? And will Jake Roberts be able to heal up in time to get back as well? So you got some young guys coming there. Defensively, I would say this is the best our defense has looked in a while. Secondary, no, not worried at all. We have freshmen out there. I'm sure that you guys can say the same. Boganowski, guys like that. Some of the freshmen back there, Jalen Hardy, they don't look like freshmen. They don't look like freshmen. They don't play like freshmen. But at the same time, man, you're really excited with the progression some of these guys have taken, especially like Robert Spears Jennings, who I think is going to be a starter. I think he's actually going to start over Bowen. That's my hot take.
Say it again.
I think he's going to start over Bowen, not Bowen.
My
I think Billy's a staple, but I
what
think
you talking about?
That's a spot I would like to see who's going to start. But regardless, you're going to see a lot of heavy dose of Peyton Bowen. I'll tell you somebody who else I like, short as hell, but Eli Bowen is real, and they had him at corner playing against 6'6" Ivan Carrion. So I think that we have some really good young talent that honestly could start day one for a lot of programs. But I really like the mix up that we have. I think that some of the guys that you want to depend on this year, like a David Stone, you've heard a lot about Jaden Jackson really tearing it up in spring camp. But David Stone, I think that he's going to be it's a process, right? And I think he's going to be great. And he made some great plays, but he also looked like a freshman at times. But he's still learning how to play this game, acclimate himself to this system, and in three, playing with all that weight on him now that he's gotten up to that size. But man, I'll be honest with you. Overall, I felt really good leaving today. I felt really good leaving today, and I'll be honest with you. I'm gonna stick by what I said, and I know people in the chat are gonna go crazy and all the rest of this stuff, but I think 10 wins is on the table for this team. If you don't fix these special teams, meaning that the kicking game and the punt game, if those are not superb by the time the season starts, and then if you have some offensive line woes, especially on the edge and the interior, you're going to be fine. You're going to be just fine in the interior. But if you don't fix some of your edge issues, meaning that your tackles and your kicking game, that's what could kind of separate you from being in that pack of like a 10-win team to being pretty much a 7 to 8 ball club, 9 games at max. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think that you're good enough to walk into the SEC and do what you need to do, because I mean, when you're returning that much production on defense, and we know year 3 is the year for Brent Venables' defenses to really take a jump, and then now I think Jackson Arnold's really poised to really have a huge season. I think he's going to show a lot of people that, hey, that Alamo Bowl was just him knocking off rust and that freshman lore, right? But outside of that, man, I felt really good about the spring game leaving there.
Hey, Chris, so tell me about this. So I watched about the first 20 minutes of it. I saw, I think, the first 3 drives, with Jackson in it. The offensive line. So tell me about the line, man. I saw the first 3 drives, probably about 3 or 4 sacks in those first 3 drives, man.
Yeah, it was the tackles, man. I mean, I think on like I said, in the interior, they were holding their own, and you saw the running backs were able to really establish themselves. I think you have something there with that whole tandem of Caleb Hicks. I think he's going to get ticked this year. Sawchuk is Sawchuk. I think he can take it to another level, but I'm not sure if he's going to be able to. I don't know if we're ever going to see him just take off like we all hope that he would. But offensive line wise, I would say is really kind of like the tackles. I think that Spencer Brown from Michigan State wasn't as advertised when he got here. I think that the Sexton is still kind of dealing with some injuries and different things like that. So, me and Ty, I think Ty made a comment about it, with him being the SEC is going to get eaten up. And I mean, yeah, there were some things that
No, I was talking about 71. I asked you if he was to get playing time, because I said edges everywhere in the nation will throw parties.
Yeah, no, but I mean, but Sexton played last year, and they were really excited about him, and he had some really, really. He put together some good games and some good clips in other games as well. But we have a mix of, I guess you can say, a little bit of I would say veterans, because you have, you went out there in the portal, and then also with the guys that you went and got in the this recruiting cycle, you're really deep, man. I think you're talented. This is one of the most talented rooms that Beaton Bow has had being here at Oklahoma. The problem is that you got to get these guys acclimated to what you're trying to do, and we all know sometimes it's hard to play for Beaton Bow because he demands so much.
Yeah, you know what, man. One thing I will say, y'all's defense was stout. First and second team defense was stout. Very stout. Linebackers were really good. Line was really good too as well, man. I mean, just the entire defense as a whole, man. But honestly, that's expected. You got BV. BV is a defensive genius, man. So I expect that from you guys. First year was just a bad year, transition year. But you guys' defense was pretty good last year. This year, I think it just takes leaps and bounds, man.
It was a refusal on the part of BV to actually try to change everything. So kind of like we got the man on here to say it himself, but he and Sark, you can't really blame them for inheriting the sins of the father, And I think a lot of OU fans, if you really look in the mirror, you're just saying that, hey, we overestimated the talent level that was here in the 2022 season. We really got caught up in all the emotions of Raleigh leaving and all the rest of this stuff. But like I said, man, I think things will come together by fall, and I think that you'll be fine. And I think, especially on the offensive line, when you get Eddie Pierre-Louis, guys like that on campus too, I think you're going to see kind of a shuffle as well. But like I said, interior, you're fine on the offensive line.
Tackles.
But the thing that and I think it was it? Yeah, it was Coop. Me and Jay and Coop did a pod together after the spring game, a little recap. And like I told them, I said, hey, look, my biggest problem with the offensive line, this is me trying to be as blunt as possible, was simply this. Coming into these last couple of seasons, we've seen there are strong parts of this offensive line, but we haven't seen that full unit be good, be dominant since since Collar and Baker were here, and that's an issue. Now it seems that everything is going to shift from the tackle spots, which have been really good for us lately, to the interior, which has been bad for us lately. But I think that you're upgrading at your tackle and at your guard and at your center position tremendously this year, but it's the tackles for me. We just have to figure that out. But I think that's going to get figured out. I trust Beatonbow, and I think by the time that we kick this thing off, I think it's going to be rocking and rolling.
Hey,
now,
we gotta,
Quentin, thank you for the $2, my man. But I gotta say this. He says another year of Chris crying and hating. Quentin, that's one of those where it's almost like that Spider-Man meme of the two This man came over whenever Luke Metz committed, Nino, and was like, I'm going to bookmark all, because you know how I do. When a kid commits, I'm like, oh, this is a great win.
Yeah.
This man comes over and says, I'm going to bookmark all these for these happy Bama fans when y'all start losing. And I'm like, what kind of weird hating is that?
Yeah.
So,
that $2 hating.
That's that Spider-Man meme pointing, because that was some weird hating.
That's funny. Hey, man, this so this comment here says Jackson Arnold versus Arch Manning. We'll go crazy 3 years from now. I don't see that happening. I'm gonna tell you why. Because I think in 2 years Arch starts, and I don't think he stays more than 1 year. I'm just gonna be honest with you.
He was sensational.
I honestly, if he plays the way that everybody thinks he's gonna play and the way that he played, I think Arch is gonna be a one and done in college. Now, maybe he stays for 2, just because he doesn't need the money. And he comes from a pretty rich family, and maybe he wants to be a college kid for as long as possible. Peyton wanted to do it, right? Peyton stayed in for as long as possible. Eli stayed in 5 years, right? So that family's just wired just a little bit different. Like maybe he stays, but yeah, man, he looks sensational. But look, I won't talk about Texas now. I'll let Chris have his moment. Go ahead, Chris.
Oh no! Look, I'm just saying, man, Nick. I think we're gonna be pretty damn good, and I trust Joe John and I trust Latrell as well. Watching a lot of film on Latrell's offense, some breakdowns and different things like that, man. I think people are gonna be surprised, and the use of the tight ends as well. And I think we have willing blockers this year, so I think you're gonna be in heavy personnel sometimes, or a lot of times, honestly. And like I keep telling people, watch out for that split bluff, split bluff zone. That play is going to be crazy because Jackson Arnold is athletic, and obviously if Hawkins were to get in the game, that's something that he would be right up his alley. But no, I mean, I think people are underestimating. In the comments to Texas fans right now, I think people are underestimating how talented this team is. If Jackson Arnold is given time with that receiving core,
but that's the problem. It's the timepiece. The timepiece with those tackles.
But I mean, hey, look, if it was a fifth, we all be drunk. But I'm just saying, which I think is going to be shored up. But I'm just saying, look, it's going to be hard to isolate and try to double team and do all this stuff. If you go over there and try to give Burks all this attention, and you got Gibson running down the field, you got Nick Anderson, you got Andrell Anthony, Farouk, guys like that. This isn't going to be just a 3-4 man show like it was with Levy sticking with his guys. This is going to be different. It's going to be hard to really pay attention to one guy. You're going to be on the island by yourself a whole bunch. And if you try to drop back and go and disguise stuff and go into zone, okay, that's cool, but you better make sure that linebacker or that safety that's coming up, or whoever's your spy on Arnold is going to be there, because if he
can run, he can run.
So I mean,
he can run. That's one thing I will give him. He can run.
Man, I mean, and plus, like I said, look, it's spring, man. It's spring ball. Like every team right now still has a lot of stuff to
every team
get fixed, but. Man, I would say this may be the year. This may be the year that you see 2 things happen. First off, that we get excellent linebacker play. And I mean, not just from Stutzman. I mean, from the Lewis Carters of the world. You're going to see the son McCullough be over there. You're going to see Kip Lewis, Kobe McKenzie, those guys are ready to turn it up. But also, I think Cheetah is going to be is hellacious for people this year. I think it is because if you're going to leave Dolby over there, you're going to put him in a natural position because that's how he played coming out of NEO to JUCO in Oklahoma. Then also Peyton Bowen, he's going to be playing some of that too. And there's going to be times where you can have McCullough or you can have Samuel. Samuel Asigo is going to turn a lot of heads this year. So I'm really confident in this defense simply because a lot of younger guys got to sit back, get that seasoning, but some of them actually play, whether it was special teams or getting snaps, different things like that. But I think those young guys are coming and we gotten better. I mean, seeing guys like Harrington have to go to the portal, that was a big sign for me, letting me know a lot about some of the guys that have stepped up and really progressed, like BV and all of them wanted them to.
Chris, I do got one question for you though. With Texas going to the SEC, OU going to the SEC, first year in the SEC, do you think it's going to be a problem for Jackson Arnold? Just a difference in the competition level.
No, I don't. I mean, I think that they're like I said. I mean, when you look at it, if you're getting, I mean, everybody can talk about the tackles and all the rest of that stuff right now, but literally, it's still April. And the thing is that for the most part of spring camp, you've heard nothing but good reviews about the offensive line. It's just that guys got dinged up and you haven't really seen them at full health. So with that being said, people are still caught up on, the interceptions. Some of those interceptions, that one was just a hell of a play. The other one, you got two fumbles. Basically, we saw him grow up in that game to where they were down 14-0, then went up 24-14, and then basically choked the game away down the stretch. Biggest thing that people have to realize is that you're going to have a solid run game. You're not going to go in there with some bipolar, crazy game plan for the run game. You're going to have a decent run game. Then Latrell is not going to be going east and west, allow you to sleep and then try to throw it over your head. He's going to force the ball down the field. He's a north and south guy. When you watch his offense, he's north and south. Then, like I said, if you want to come out there and try to pay all this attention to Burke and try to shadow him and bracket him and all the rest of that stuff, that's perfectly fine. You're going to have people on the other side running down the field because you got speed and you got size out there. It's going to be hard to stop them. So I just don't know how you're going to sit there and say Jackson Arnold isn't set up for success this year.
It's going to be interesting, man, because maybe y'all's tackles position was like our line last year. We were getting blasted all off season. Everybody was like, what's wrong with our guards? What's wrong with our center? But people didn't realize that Sweat and Murphy were probably going to be the two best defensive tackles as a tandem in the country. It's just because we didn't see it yet, right? So we had, Coburn there and those guys actually went up to the league and stuff like that. And so when Sweat and Murphy come in, we saw glimpses of it and like flashes, but we didn't know that they were going to be that damn good last year. So our guards actually looked really good when they didn't play against our tackles, right? And so, is that the case, you think, with you guys' defensive line?
Yeah, I think our defensive line is way better. I mean, I think you got guys that are actually healthy now. R. Mason Thomas, and look, you got R. Mason Thomas. You went out there and got the Woolard kid who looks really good. You got savvy vets in there like Trace Ford. You're going to see PJ Adebarare. He's starting to come along. It's just you got to get him a little bit more polished. That light bulb has to go off. Then you're going to see Taylor Wine this year and in some capacity as well. So a lot of your younger guys that were hella talented and hella talented coming out of high school, those guys are stepping up as well. It kind of tells you two things. Like, okay, on this side of the coin, maybe our offensive line isn't that great if they're getting beat by these freshmen. But it also, on the other side, you also say, damn, well, if my 5-star freshman is coming in here and is already turning some heads, then I think we did pretty well recruiting this cycle, right? So, yeah. I mean, the thing is that I think you got really good talent, and you got guys that know that system as well. That's coming up, and I think you have a chance to get better if one more of these D tackles ends up coming to you.
Well, I think two things can be true at once, right? Like, I think y'all did great work on getting some defensive front guys. But the only thing that I would say that differentiates, Nino, what your example was from Oklahoma, Oklahoma's replacing basically the entire offensive line.
Yeah.
So it's not like, you were looking at an offensive line that was super principled, super experienced together going up against a Sweat and Murphy and struggling. This is a new offensive line. Now, I'm not saying that is going to automatically negate any success for Oklahoma. We know what Bill Bedenbaugh, we know what kind of coach he is, right? Bishop says 7-300 power line. Listen, I'll say this right here. As an Alabama fan, we heard all last season how these guys were so big. They were bigger than the average NFL offensive line, and damn it, when they went out on the field, they looked like it.
They were slower. Yeah,
they were slow, and they got smoked. And now you look, half the offensive line's lost like 20 pounds. I don't know if y'all saw the picture of Proctor at A-Day. He's lost 25 pounds.
Oh, yeah? What's he down to, about 340 now?
I think he's pushing like 335 right now.
That's good, man. That's good. I want to see him succeed.
I do too. I do. Our offensive line's a huge question. So Chris, it's funny because we're kind of in the same boat where it's not like Alabama's replacing a bunch of offensive line. But guys, do you want to know something crazy? If I told you that a team had the number 129 offensive line and sacks allowed, would you think that they took the national champions to overtime? That's the truth. Alabama was number 129 in the nation in sacks allowed and took Michigan to overtime.
Well, shit. Yeah, I mean, and
can't continue.
Yeah, man.
Continue.
Yeah, man. Won the SEC too as well. So yeah, man. Hey, but Chris, it's a good comment here. He said that what does he say? He says, what is OU just got to prove, yada yada, understand the hate. Texas gets all the hype. Okay, we get it. OU cannot be knocked for a strength of schedule this year. That is true. And one thing that, look, man, I want to bring this up. Jackson Arnold, he's going to have his freshman moments. He's a redshirt freshman. He's going to have those freshman moments, right? We understand it. And he's going to have it. First true test is week 4. You got Tennessee and then Auburn. And then after Auburn, you got Texas.
And Tennessee's going to be a great test because
that's at Tennessee, right?
Not only that,
is that OU?
Gotcha.
Even then, if your question is tackles, right? That's one of the reasons I hate that our Tennessee game's always so late in the season. I really kind of wish we had Tennessee early because I have a lot of questions about Alabama's tackles, right? Like that's my biggest, and I know someone said they saw James Brockermeyer in the portal. Yeah, that took me by surprise a bit, but remember, Alabama got in Parker Brailsford, who was the second highest graded center in the nation this past year as a freshman. He came with DeBoer from Washington. And listen, he's got to adjust to the SEC, but I feel better about Alabama's center position this year than last year. You look at that national championship or the playoff game, there were like 9 snaps at Jalen Milroe's ankles. So I feel better about the center this year, but the reason why I bring up Tennessee is because their pass rush on the exterior is really good. And so I love that y'all get them early because that's going to be a great building game for the rest of the season for your young offensive line. And you have Bedenbaugh. That's why it's like, okay, I can wonder what Oklahoma's offensive line is going to look like, but you have one of the 3 best offensive line coaches in the nation who gets it right all the time.
Yeah, all the time.
And so it's just a matter of when, not if, right? Like whether it's game 1, 2, because we know these things can take a few games to gel, even for experienced offensive lines. But Bedenbaugh's Bedenbaugh, man. Like, you just know he's going to get it right.
But I would say this right here is that it's going to be an interesting game because Tennessee has similar issues that OU has as well. Obviously, you've seen the money they put out, Lance Hurd and all the rest of them for tackles themselves. And then one thing that I think is not going to be there this year for them, and I know that you guys are going to say the kid can run and this and that, but I'm not necessarily sure what's sitting behind him. I'm talking about Nico. I don't think you can run at people or try to run him like you would.
Even Jackson Arnold.
Yeah, that's the same thing I said about Jackson, though. Yeah, Jackson likes to run too.
We got Casey Thompson. You know what I'm saying?
You got Casey Thompson.
I'm playing with you.
Okay, we're gonna talk. Okay, that's where we going.
We got Casey.
That's where we going.
But I'm saying they got similar issues. But I feel like the build Smitty, I believe in that whole hype and all the rest of that stuff.
That's my point right here. Yeah. When I didn't bring up like Jackson Arnold in terms of like, oh, well, it's an analogous situation where you're wondering who's behind him. I brought up Jackson Arnold in terms of like, if I'm going to trust, if you're telling me, Ty, Nico and Jackson Arnold, they're both going to be mobile quarterbacks. Yeah. They're both going to take off. Which guy do you feel like is going to be able to, obviously knock on wood for both of these guys? I can't wait to see them both healthy.
It's going to be a good game.
Well, they're going to be superstars, man. Two superstar I would put more money on Jackson Arnold finishing a season healthy because that cat is built, man. Yeah. Like, he's got the build to be able to absorb some contact where Nico, I mean, we all said it. Chris,
Nico's skinny dude, man.
My favorite quarterback in that class was Nico, but I always said, like, he's the one quarterback that needs a year to redshirt, get in that strength and conditioning room, even if it was 2 years. Like, I think his upside is stupid high, but I also think he was the greenest in terms of like needing to adjust his body, needing to develop. So that Tennessee game is going to be fantastic.
I think the interesting thing for me, so you know, a couple of things that I've said before, and I'll say it again. First off, for OU, I think all 12 games, you basically have to make this a 3-game season. Each, you know, just go like that because you have a tough schedule. You got a tough schedule.
Yeah, they do.
But second off, I think one thing that really gives me a lot of confidence with Latrell and Jackson is the fact that I think we're going to make that shift from, hey, we're going to run these 3 plays and we're going to run it down their throat. It doesn't matter if we're getting off the field in just 50 seconds or if we're taking 4 or 5 minutes in the game. And you saw Levy get better at that last year, but that was something that a lot of times just didn't make a lot of sense to OU fans out there, was the fact that you would have these really, really quick 3 and outs. You would have 3 and outs with 50 seconds, taking 50 seconds off the clock, and they're still, you know, it's a two possession game, but hell, you're giving them the ball back with good field position, all the rest of that stuff with 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. You get what I'm saying? And so you're giving them time to at least try to make things interesting.
Oh, but, sooner. I have y'all doing better than 8.
Yeah, I got us doing better than that. But, and then the last thing I would say, like I said, I just think that I think Jackson's ready for the moment, and I think that teams are going to, on both sides of the ball, I think when you get to the SEC, that's the beauty of it. And Nick, you'll appreciate this comment too. Teams in the SEC are going to allow us to actually play straight up.
Yeah, that's one thing I can't wait for.
They're going to allow us to play straight up, and that means that we're not going to have, like, when we play Temple, Houston, and Tulane, you're going to see a lot of quick game and try to counter that those edges and all the rest of the stuff. You know that with the kid from UTSA, Colin Simmons, all those guys. Vasek, everybody. So you already know that that's coming in the non-con play. But when you get to the SEC, when guys are feeling,
it's going to be man on man. It's going to be talent versus talent. Man.
So you can actually
talent versus talent. I can't.
Yes, you can actually get that. And so that goes back to my second point about the feel for the game. I think Latrell is going to have a better feel for the game to be able to say, okay, we can run tempo this time. We can do this on this possession. Now let's slow it down. Let's get methodical with this, and let's figure this out, and let's get him into a rhythm. But I think that I think those two things right there really help me. I think those two dynamics, that if they marry each other, that could really help not only the team overall, but Jackson individually. Because I think Jackson Arnold is going to be able to really key in on that and get loose. And like I said, man. A lot of the plays last year that would have really separated us from a bunch of teams, a lot of the underthrows, that's not happening this year.
Yeah,
Arnold's got a cannon.
Yeah, he's hitting those in stride. He's hitting those in stride.
Man, it's going to be interesting. Y'all got a tough ass schedule, though. I mean, it's just man. Just
luckily, I think they get a lot of. It's a tough schedule, but I think that Oklahoma has the benefit of getting a lot of those games at home. If I'm not mistaken.
No, they don't. No. Auburn's at Auburn.
Yeah, but they have Tennessee at home. You don't have to play in Neyland. That's a hellacious stadium. You don't have to play in Bryant-Denny. That's a hellacious stadium.
No, but Ole Miss is at Ole Miss. Missouri at Missouri. LSU at LSU.
You do have. I thought
they got it pretty tough, man.
Okay.
Are we really that worried about LSU this year?
I have a hot take about LSU.
Dude, okay, look here, guys.
Let's go ahead and move on from OU, man. I mean, hey, look, like I said, hey, look. Y'all can call it Kool-Aid. Y'all can call it what y'all want.
You're just telling the truth. You're telling what you're seeing.
I agree with a lot of what you say, man. Like, I have I have some questions about Oklahoma, but I think Chris, Nick, y'all know me well enough to where like I when you hear a lot of people say, "Oh, I have questions," they're really meaning I have concerns.
Yeah.
But when I say I have questions, I don't mean I have concerns, right? Like I'll tell you if I have concerns. I don't have concerns for Oklahoma. I have questions, and I think that's natural whenever you're rebuilding an offensive line, but I like having questions that have answers. Y'all have an answer in Bill Bedenbaugh. So it's like, what's the conversation?
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. I guess it's just not seeing that line gelled yet. And look, I understand it's early, but usually with OU, you're just so used to seeing the line buttoned up pretty much all year round. That's the only thing.
This would be my last comment about them. The last time I seen a line like this was, especially in the spring game, was when Jalen was the quarterback.
Yeah,
and I know those are two different
styles.
But you still have one common denominator. Bill Bedenbaugh was still there.
Yeah, but you know, crazy thing about it, those are two different styles of quarterbacks, but are they? You know, like Jalen ran his ass off. Jackson can run.
Two coaching styles. Honestly,
okay.
Like how you wanted to do it.
Got you.
But what I'm saying is that the common denominator was Bedenbaugh. Bedenbaugh got you there. You even went to a playoff. You weren't obviously, you know. I mean,
but that LSU team was all time.
Yeah, I mean, you know what happened. You weren't SEC ready at the time, but you got
SEC teams weren't ready for that LSU team, man. They were all time.
Yeah.
But then also, you know, Jalen is a different animal in college too. I don't think, you know, he's probably one of the greatest leaders we've probably seen in this era of college football.
Easy.
You know what I'm saying? So, you know, those are high praises if you're going to put that on Jackson. But, you know, so there's a reason why Jalen is the highest paid quarterback in the NFL right now. Right.
Yeah.
And it's because he is that guy that has that those skills, right? But hey, man, I'm gonna talk about Texas for a little bit, just a little bit.
You do, can I get into my hot take with LSU?
Go ahead.
I won't take 2 minutes.
Oh no, man, take your time.
I think LSU, and I know this is probably going to come back to bite me.
Go ahead and say it. I already know what you're gonna say, Ty. I already know what you're gonna say. Go ahead.
I think they're being overhyped right now. Like you lose Neighbors, you lose what is it, Thomas?
Yeah, right? You lose Thomas. You lose a Heisman Trophy winner.
You lose. John Emery's out, and your defense was all-time bad. And I get it. You've made hires on the defensive staff that I think are going to be conducive to success. But gentlemen, are you going to be able to do a massive turnaround year one? I mean, listen. Oklahoma has Jackson Arnold, and while he might be a new quarterback, I love the offensive pieces around him, Chris. Like, yes, we might have a conversation about the offensive line. There's not a conversation to be had about the wide receivers at Oklahoma, nor the running backs. I mean, they are as good as you could want. And defensively, I do agree. I think y'all are going to be much, much better. Their defense, I still have principled concerns about. And I don't know that they're going to be, and I like Nuss. Like, both of you know that I like Nuss, but like, the SEC this year, Milrose back, Quinn's back, Beck is there. Like Brady Cook over at Missouri.
Cook still cooking.
You got some quarterbacks in this league now that can take advantage of your defensive deficiencies, and I think they have them. So I think they'll be good, but I keep seeing people being like, oh, it's Georgia and then either Texas or LSU, and I'm like,
look here, man. I've never been the biggest Nussmeier fan. I know you are, Ty.
I like it.
You know, I'm not saying I don't like him. It's just I don't know, man. It's I've seen him play, and he's coming to games and he's looked good. I just got to see it for a full season. You know, I don't know. You know, fair enough on that, but you know, I think he'd be a good quarterback. It's just it's going to be hard to kind of follow up. You know, a guy who just won a Heisman. And
I don't know that he's transcendent. I think he's going to be good, but like, are you going to be Daniels? I don't think so.
Hell no. And
right?
Daniels carried that team in his back with no defense.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, so that ought to tell you something, man. He was no kidding the best player in college football last year. You put him on a team that had some kind of defense with a pulse, and that team goes undefeated. And, you know, he was that good. Yeah. But Ty, I'm with you. And hey, Sooner Cowboy, good comment. They could literally have 4 or 5 losses by the time they play OU.
I agree. Like I understand more the people who are like, oh, well, Texas could be number 2. And I'm like, okay, we can have that conversation, but I understand that far more than I understand LSU being propped up as either the second or third best team in the SEC. And I'm like, they're going to be good. It's LSU, but are they going to be as scary as LSU usually is? I don't think so.
I don't think so
this
either.
might come back to bite me, but it's out there now. What are you going to do?
No, Ty, I think they take a step back. I just don't see how your first round quarterback is going to be a top 5 pick this year. You're going to have a wide receiver that's going to be a top 4 or 5 pick this year too as well. You're going to have another wide receiver who's going to be in the first round as well. Even as bad as your defense was last year, you're going to have 2 defensive tackles that are going to get drafted this year. LSU is losing some key players, man. Can Nuss handle it?
Campbell gone?
Oh, Campbell. Yeah, I mean, Campbell's another one, right? So I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting. Is Brian Kelly the coach that we all, just kind of think he is? If he is, then maybe they bounce back and they have a 9-3 or a 10-2 season. And that would be, to me, extraordinary, just kind of considering all the pieces that they, lost. But hey, man, I'm with you. I don't see it right now. I just don't see it.
I'm glad I'm not the only one. All right. I apologize. I didn't mean to derail the Texas talk.
No, man, you're good. I mean, okay, Texas. I know, hey, look, everybody wants to talk about Arch Manning, right? Arch Manning, yes. Arch had a hell of a game, 355 yards with 3 or 4 touchdowns, something like that, right? So he had a hell of a game. He looked outstanding. There was an opportunity where Sark was actually coming up to talk to him and, maybe kind of handle some plays, and Sark just kind of backed off and basically just said, let him do his thing, and he did his thing the entire game. So, but Sark is the quarterback whisperer. Even that third string guy looked really good. Trey Owens looked good. So, I love our offensive line, man. Our line looks amazing. Defensive line is still what's worrying me. That's what's keeping me up at night right now, is who is going to man the interior of that Texas defensive line. Now, they didn't look bad in the spring game, but I know how this is going to play out in the season if they don't get some backup there or have a good kind of rotation going on, because losing Sweat and Brian Murphy is going to be a doozy, man. It just is what it is, You got Alfred Collins, you got Vernon Broughton, but you bring in 2 guys, from Arizona. So is Texas going to get Williams from TCU? I know that's going to be a big one between Texas and OU. That's going to be a huge battle, right? And so we'll see what happens with that. Secondary, that's the big elephant in the room right now, right? Texas secondary did not look good in that damn spring game. And then, you have Terrence Brooks.
That was a weakness last year.
That was a weakness last year. Texas was 115 for 117th in pass defense in the country last year. So that worries me. That really worries me, to be honest with you. But Terrence Brooks goes to the portal. Austin Jordan also goes to the portal as well also. I'm not worried about Manny Muhammad. I think he's going to be outstanding.
He's a beast. He's a monster.
He's going to be outstanding. I think the thing that could possibly save this secondary is when Terrence Brooks left. I think that's going to move Manny Muhammad over to the field side, which I think is going to be perfect for him. And if they move Barron over to cornerback instead of nickel, he can play the boundary because he's such a good defender in the run game. He's such a good defender, but I like Barron at the damn nickel because it gives him opportunity to sit back and see the play. And he's so good against the run. But if they move him to cornerback and then you move a guy like Jalen Gilbo, who actually started, above Barron in his first year for like 2 or 3 games, you move him to nickel, who, he's been shining. And then you have some good safeties back there. I like Derek Williams. Look, I like Taft. Taft might be a walk-on who got a scholarship. Yes, I still like Taft. He had a good season last year, and I love the kid from Clemson too as well. Right? So, look,
Kuba.
Yeah, man. Now, Ty, look, he could possibly move down to nickel, right?
He's very versatile.
He's very versatile. We have options, right? It's just that when you lose some of those guys, you're losing depth. And then if something happens to one of, Manny Muhammad or Barron or Gilbo or Williams or Taft, then who's going to come in behind these guys? A lot of these guys are young. They're true freshmen or redshirt freshmen. That's the only thing that kind of worries me about the secondary. But, man, they got ate up last year. We got more team speed this year. Hopefully things work out better this year, but I got to see it to believe it. Those are, like Ty goes like this. He goes, we got questions, right? And look, I need questions and answers, right? When it comes to the secondary, I'm not worried about linebacker, Anthony Hill.
No, Anthony Hill's a monster.
I'm not worried about edge, to be honest with you. I think we shored that up. Colin Simmons, Trey Moore, Ethan Burke, Vasek. Chris's favorite person on Texas is Vasek. He loves some Vasek, right? Vasek looked damn good in that spring game, right? He looked damn good. But my biggest things here is what's going to happen in that secondary, because guys are running wide open, and what's going to happen on the interior. What's up, Chris?
Nick, if I see Taft out there on the field, this year, if I see him on the field,
I let you talk about animation.
I'm calling you and I'm telling you that right there is that good what on the field.
Well, 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be Taft. It's probably going to be Andrew Makuba.
If he out there on the field again, I'm feeling like, damn, we back in Houston all over again.
Get out of here. Get out of here. Taft did not play bad last year.
So all jokes aside, you said something in your video yesterday. If y'all haven't checked out that video that he did, that Nino did on Brooks leaving or whatever, that live stream, go and check that video out again. It was a great video. But you said something that I was like, damn, I didn't expect Nick to say that.
What's that?
You called out your secondary coach. You said, hey.
Terry Joseph?
Yeah, you said, maybe it's time for us to look at those guys and say, you need to do a better job of coaching.
But that's the thing, right? Look, I've always said this. Manny Muhammad looked very good as a true freshman last year, right? He looked very good. Derek Williams looked really good, especially going into the back half of the season. Now, if these guys regress in year 2, it's not a talent problem. It's a coaching problem.
Yeah.
Right. And so, if that happens, if these guys regress in year 2 at Texas, first year in the SEC, then you got to start reevaluating those coaches. You got to start looking at Terry Joseph. You got to start looking at Blake Gideon. And you got to say, it's not the players, because these are players that everybody in the country wanted. Nick Saban stayed on the damn phone with Manny Muhammad for 2 hours prior to him signing today because he wanted him that bad at Alabama.
Wanted him bad.
Right? So
I still want him bad.
Here's my point with all of that, Nick, is that the fact that I watched Orange Bloods yesterday when this happened. I was talking to my aunt. Then I watched your video, and I just thought to myself, I said, this is crazy, because you heard a lot of great things about this Brooks kid. Now it's like Texas fans are turning on him and saying, well, he was getting people were just blowing by him. He was getting torched anyways in the secondary and all the rest of this. And when I look at your comment, I have to go back to that, because being there at the Red River game, watching you guys so many times last year, especially when teams will get the better of you on the back half. Whenever you can get past that, when you get to that third level, that's whenever it was like, I don't know what Texas really has, because I know if you get past Sweat and all the rest of them, you're fine. But my point with this is that I don't know how you guys were getting blown past and all the rest of this stuff. It wasn't like y'all was pressing a whole lot. Y'all would press and then watch the snap count, and then y'all are bagging up 5-10 yards and giving them so much cushion. So it wasn't like y'all
which is the weirdest thing. Which is the weirdest thing, because last year our cornerbacks, Ryan Watts, Manny Muhammad, these guys are taller guys and bigger guys. Ryan Watts is a guy that, mark it on your calendar, folks. Dan Quinn's going to draft that guy. He's a Dan Quinn cornerback. He's 6'2", 210 pounds. He's a Dan Quinn guy. He's big. He's bulky. He runs pretty fast too for his size, right? But when you have guys like him and Manny Muhammad, why aren't they pressing at the line? Why aren't they jamming receivers at the line? Let them use their length. Let them use their size to read, just to redirect wide receivers, right? We weren't doing that. We had guys off the ball 5 or 6 yards, which I didn't get. So, like I said, if these guys regress in year 2, it is time to not look at the player. It's time to look at the coach.
Yeah, and that was my point. Go ahead, Ty.
Well, and I'm glad, because you both heard me say it, right? After the Bama-Texas game, Bama gets in there, they take the L, right? Sark really attacked Caleb Downs. Second game, beautiful game plan going at the young very talented safety. I mean, that guy is going to be a top 10 draft pick. Whenever I really wish he would have stayed, but that's neither here nor there.
He might be a top 5 pick.
Yeah, he's sensational, right? You got him early, and I mean, masterclass by Sark. Yeah. But Nick, Chris, y'all will remember because Steven made the comment of like, oh, well, we left a lot of meat on the bones, and I was like, you know what, that's fair. But simultaneously, I want the rematch because listen, I'm very blessed right now. I'd love to share the screen if I could. I have a drive filled with, I believe last time I checked, 120 teams. Yeah. Their full seasons, all 22 film. I'm in a group with a bunch of scouts. So I got that all 22 film fairly quickly after, and I was like, yo, when I look at the all 22, Bama wide receivers are running wild past the secondary, just streaking open, but our offensive line can't contain. Like, they just ate us up. And now, granted, then the problem is you got to stop them from scoring. And like I said, Sark was calling a masterclass. But Chris, you'll even remember, I was like, I'd love to have that rematch once Milroe, who, you know, he continues to progress, because I thought that Bama's wide receivers were running open a lot more than people realized. And when you looked at the all 22, it was there. The problem was we just couldn't. We couldn't stop y'all consistently from scoring, and Sark called a masterclass of a game.
He had, and if we can just kind of take a little sidebar, I think Milroe is going to have an amazing year.
Why? Hell yeah, he is.
He now has quarterback coaches.
Not only that, but I think DeBoer runs a college-friendly system that has some pro concepts in it, but it's not that complicated. And I don't think it's going to be on him to really make the decisions this year. Because Tommy Rees was kind of like in that area, it was a little bit of a downgrade from Bob. And what I mean by that's a poor way to put it, but I'm just saying that he tried to run like a lot of it's kind of a, don't get me wrong, it's college friendly, but it's a pro style, right? I think this is just really, it's not gimmicky, it's not any of that. It just works. But you're telling your wide receivers, hey, it's really on you to beat your guy and make us look really good. So I think he's gonna have a hell of a year. But they caught y'all early and benefited from that. That's not the only reason why Texas won. But at the same time, you guys benefited tremendously from two young guys and the safety, Caleb Downs, and then obviously Milroe's inefficiencies as a
our offensive line wasn't great. And Steven was right whenever he said Texas left meat on the bone. They certainly did. I mean, you go back, the all 22 certainly supports that as well. I always just wanted a rematch because I was like, I think our wide receivers, because Milroe, listen, he's still growing in terms of short to intermediate, but his deep ball accuracy was second highest in the nation behind only Jaden Daniels. And I mean, they were really high ahead. So yeah, Kyle says in the end, we both got exposed. My brother, we made playoffs.
I know both made the playoffs. Look here, man. Both teams got better as the seasons went on, especially at the end.
True.
You saw both teams squeak by during the middle of the season. You know, Texas had a couple squeaky games going on. Alabama had a couple squeaky games. Yeah. But when it mattered, those last 3 or 4 games, Texas going against Tech and going against, who is it in the Big 12 championship? Okie State. You guys going against Georgia. Both teams took both the teams that actually played for the championship to the last play of the game. So both teams got better as the year went on. Both teams, right? So, yeah, that would have been a really good, matchup.
I wanted to see the rematch because while it wasn't like I was watching the film being like, oh my God, if they rematch Texas, they're going to win. I was like, oh man, I think it'd be a good game. Really fun.
Yeah, it'd be a good game because I would have loved to have seen how Texas would have matched up with Milroe running the ball. Milroe ran the ball very effectively in that first game. But I think he left meat in the bone running the ball too as well. But you guys' defense didn't play completely bad that game.
No. Sark was in his bag. I mean, masterful.
Yeah, he was just in his bag that game. But he was drawing it up pretty much all summer probably. And Saban was drawing up his defenses and everything all summer too as well. So it was a chess match on both ends. And, of course, Texas won by 10 points, but the game was a lot closer than 10 points. There were points taken off the board. Texas had a drop touchdown. It could have swung either way, right? It could have swung. It was closer than 10 points.
I agree and
like that.
disagree because, like I said, I truly do agree with Steven whenever he was like, "Oh, Texas left meat on the bones." I think that like the 10-point was pretty much well indicative, man. Like Texas had a great game plan.
Yeah.
Now, Steven, I mean but kind of just pivoting back to the spring game, that's what kind of caused me concern. Like, people in here waiting for me to rip Arch Manning. I'm not gonna rip him. I mean, he's a second string quarterback. But anyways, like I'm saying though,
get out of here. Go ahead.
I think that just caused me concern because I'm like, look, y'all still have the same secondary. Y'all still have the same secondary issues, and if you're gonna bring in a bunch of guys, you better do that now. I think you guys got talent on the field. You guys have a lot of length, and that's one of the things I like about.
Which I think Texas might get a little bit more lengthier in the secondary if things come to fruition like people think it's going to happen. Yeah. One thing about Brooks I want to talk about too. I just heard something today that Brooks came in the camp like 12 pounds more than what he was last year. He's like 205 pounds, 207 pounds or something this year, which is, if you want your guy to be leaner and faster, putting on 12 extra pounds is not the key, right? And I don't think the coaching staff was happy about that either as well. And so, rumor is, it wasn't one of those I'm hitting the portal and we're mad about it, if that makes sense.
I mean, and that's great. I mean, that's cool. I mean, there's a lot of things you could say there, but I think at the end of the day, when I listen to you and I listen to some of the other Texas fans that I do respect, I think that kind of spoke volumes to me. That like, hey, what the hell is going on here? Because regardless of all of that, these issues or whatever, at least he's on your bench. At least he's depth. Now you guys got to go and replace him. And I think it is something to say. I mean, look, offensively, I think you guys are going to be just okay. I think Sark is a great.
I think we're going to be better this year offensively.
I don't know, man. I'm gonna be honest with you, Ty. Please, you're my friend.
Go ahead. Say it, Chris. I think Texas is going to be better this year.
Overrated. I think Bun is over. I wasn't a big fan. I get it, but I wasn't a big fan of the pickup. I like Niblack more because I think he's going to be better than Sanders, to be honest with you, because he's going to be more of a pass threat. But I don't know, man. If you guys are going to be dependent on Moore to be one of your guys, not really. I don't love that. And then Cook, I've heard kind of.
Why not? You guys wanted more. I don't want to hear that. You guys got.
They got Wingo and Wingo.
Come on. Hey, a different regime. But you were just talking about Brendan Thompson maybe doing something for you guys this year. He couldn't make it here. You know what I'm saying? He couldn't make it at Texas.
I'm just saying, man.
And
better opportunity.
Let's just be honest.
Better opportunity now. But I'm just telling you, like,
you guys wanted Jonte Cook too.
Y'all are replacing a lot this year, and that's something that I'm just like, look, you can say y'all gonna be better, but replacing
we're replacing
Trent Murphy,
hold on.
Mitchell.
Go ahead.
What's the other wide receiver's name?
Who? Mitchell?
No, I said Mitchell.
Worthy.
Yeah, Worthy. Like, hey, you guys are look. That's a lot of production that you guys lost. Y'all ain't gonna be able to just make up for that overnight.
Well, look here.
I don't think Bond is overrated.
I don't think so either.
But I will say I think A.D. Mitchell's better.
Yes.
Like I don't think that's much of a conversation. Like Bond, I'm hoping to see him develop more in terms of like what he can do, because Sark and y'all's wide receiver coach, really solid coaches over there. Yeah. And while I like Wiggins, there's a crazy stat that Wiggins has like 13 wins as the wide receiver coach at Bama, and almost all of them transferred out. Like the guy can recruit, but it wasn't clicking, right? And he's got great coaches there. But Bond, I don't think is overrated, man. He's very, very talented, very
and especially in Sark's offense, look here, man. You just need speed and guys who can catch the damn ball. And I think he can do that. Jonte Cook is a guy that I think people are going to understand and know his name by game 4 or 5. He's going to be one of those guys
we know his name now, but it's just why are these mixed reviews coming out about him? I mean, but it's spring.
It's the same reason those mixed reviews are coming out about your tackles. At least our guys are catching balls for touchdowns. You know what I'm saying? So, look, it's still spring. Like you say, it's still, but at least I'm willing to realize that our secondary needs work. right?
You heard me say that our tackles need work. You heard me say offensive line.
But I think our offense is going to be better this year. I think just for the simple fact that you have our offensive line, 4 starters are returning from an offensive line that gelled really good last year. We saw, even when Jonathan Brooks went down last year, we thought this offense, especially the running game, was going to go to crap.
Yeah.
No, sir, it did not. Jaden Blue came in and did his thing. You couple that with CJ Baxter in his second year, healthier, stronger, right? And then you couple that with the 2 guys behind it. Well, the 3 guys, Trey Wisner, Christian Clark, and Jared Gibson. But I think you got a 3-headed monster right there at the running back position with Jaden Blue, CJ Baxter, and Trey Wisner. What?
I don't believe that. I think it's really just going to be Blue and Baxter. But my question is, are we going to see that whole crazy dynamic? You know what I'm talking about between
as far as
Baxter and Blue. Like, are we going to actually see a lot of Blue as well? I think Blue started, to be honest.
Well, he actually started the spring game. Yeah. And so, yes, I think you're going to see a great dynamic. You saw when Brooks went down last year, Sark used both of them. Sark is usually a guy that likes to stick with 1 guy running back and 3 wide receivers. When Brooks got hurt last year, he switched it up. He played Blue a lot. He played Baxter. He rotated them, and those guys were fresh. And I think we saw the best out of both of them. Jaden Blue was one of those kind of forgotten guys because he didn't play his senior year of ball, right? So he was a top back in the country as a junior. Didn't play his last year of high school, so people kind of forgot about him. Texas stuck with him. And we're seeing that he was one of the fastest guys in the team last year, and he's already up to 205 pounds. He's going to be slithering, and he catches the ball really well.
I am ready to see, because I have some questions about him. I definitely want to see a work of his work of art during for a full season. I want to see.
I think it's going to be great, especially if they rotate those guys, which I think Sark is going to do.
Yeah.
And if they play some 21 personnel, man, with the 2 running backs and 1 tight end, that's going to be dangerous because both those guys can catch the ball. But yeah.
So, and this is just me now. I'm about to be very critical.
Go ahead.
So you're telling me I should believe in all of that. Okay. And I get that.
Go ahead.
I should have some questions, have some worries about the secondary.
Yep.
Talking the interior needs to be shored up a little bit more. I know you guys are working on that. I see you guys are working just as hard as we are. But to me, I think the biggest question mark that I haven't heard anything about, and nobody's talking about, what the hell's going on with Mullet Boy down there? What's up with Quinn Ewers or Quintavious or whatever y'all want to call him today? Because I don't know.
His deep ball has got to be better this year. Like, you've had AJ Milwee and Steve Sarkisian for 3 years now.
Yeah, your deep ball has to be better.
Got to get better. Your footwork has got to be consistent. When his footwork is consistent, magic. Believe you me, as an Alabama fan, I watched it. That moonshot he threw to, was it Worthy or
that was the one? One
of the most beautiful passes I've seen in a while.
That was to Mitchell when Mitchell had to readjust to the ball and he kind of caught it off his knees.
Incredible.
Yeah,
the moonshot pass, but it's just about the consistency. We know where Ewers can do. It's just about replicating it, and especially on that deep ball, because that's the next level.
That's the thing that separates him from a guy like Arch Manning. Arch Manning's footwork, his footwork in the spring game, Ty, was stupid.
That's what I sent in the group chat, and I was like, his footwork is already
it's pro. It's pro.
But that's something that I'm me being cynical, I would love to jump on are we gonna get the whole, Caleb Klubnik, DJU hype, right? Are we going to get the whole Kelly Bryant, Trevor Lawrence hype, right? But I think I want to steer away from that at least until we get to, fall camp or whatever, or we get to that first game where Quinn makes some mistakes, right? But the thing is that, is Quinn going to be Quinn from this past year, or is it Quinn gonna take that step and finally be that guy?
I think he takes a step.
Himself.
You know what?
Because that would be kind of. I think you guys could potentially be fine elsewhere. Maybe not secondary. I don't believe in that secondary. I'm sorry, but he may be the only thing that would really hold you guys back from
I don't think that he'll hold him back.
I don't think so either.
Sark's offense this year, if you look, I think it was like 29%. Now, this is another conversation, right? Because this is the conversation, Nick, you and I have about like a Justin Herbert, right? Which was so interesting evaluating him under that Mario Cristobal offense because Herbert threw like 33% of his passes at or behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
Quinn threw a substantial amount of his passes near the line of scrimmage at or behind it. And so, but the reason why I bring that up is because y'all still made it to the playoffs. Y'all were still hyper successful. Sark is going to scheme something up. It'll make Sark's life a lot easier if Quinn starts hitting those deep shots at even an average rate. Because wasn't he 9th in the Big 12 in passes over 20 yards?
It was something like that. It wasn't the best.
But what happens when Quinn takes off again and gets his ass popped like he did time and time again in the Red River game, and then he gets injured once again?
Well, guess what?
Those are real questions.
I think we might have the well, Chris, guess what? I think we might have the best backup in the SEC.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Y'all got a great quarterback.
That's all I needed to know.
I'm just saying.
All I needed to know.
No, Chris. Chris. You talked a lot of mess about Arch Manning the last year. Well, actually, the last two, even like when he was getting recruited. What did you think about his, his spring game?
You know how I felt about Arch.
Come on, Chris, talk about it. What do you think about the spring game?
I thought it was to be expected. He should be good. He comes from that lineage.
No. You guys said it was a 3-star, and
you guys is a very
no. You guys is because I really didn't say too much about all that stuff. I asked.
Don't lump me in with this. I made a whole video.
But if you want to go there, Nick. Y'all secondary is shit.
I didn't care about secondary.
Tell you, he should be able to do that. He's probably playing against 2s and 3s out there.
So if I may,
hold on, Chris, your tackles were shit, and your starting quarterback got sacked by the second team defense 4 times within the first 3 drives.
Look, Nick. First off, you want to watch it.
That's the truth. Go ahead, Ty.
If I may,
go ahead, Ty.
Even if you have questions about the core or about the secondary, that shot he threw to, was it Blue?
Yeah.
That was beautiful.
And the one to Wingo.
The one to Wingo is not, but that was a great pass. So here, no. The Moore is the one that I'm thinking about. The Moore one, great pass. Moore was wide open, right? Yeah. So you should hit that one. But the one to Blue wasn't wide open. He had a safety rotating down. The pocket was collapsing. He stepped up, stepped right, and then boom. Then the one to Isaiah Bond. I couldn't have handed the ball to Isaiah Bond any better than that. So, listen, even if you have questions about the secondary, he was putting it in a breadbasket. I mean, that throw to Isaiah Bond was sprinting, and he just does this, and the ball just falls right over his shoulder. Boom. I mean, that was a beautiful throw.
Nobody around him, just throwing routes on air, basically. I get that, but that's my only knock on it. It's just the fact that, hey, look, I got to see live bullets going. I got to see live rounds. But if you're telling me that, and you're telling me that I need to believe, and y'all have the best quarterback room in the nation, Quinn doesn't need to start. Because if Ty has these concerns,
I didn't say the best quarterback in the nation. I didn't say the best quarterback in the nation. I said we got the best backup, and I said we got the best backup quarterback in the SEC.
I'm just saying. Okay, all right. We'll go through we'll be here again, just like we was with Malik, because you was a huge fan of Malik, and you thought Malik
I was going to take, but so are you guys. I think I have you on record saying that you don't want to see him play because you don't think you think he's going to light everybody up. You and Jason from Hall of Fame Sports. And Jason from Hall of Fame said that.
I've seen.
Hold on. I'm gonna call receipts. You talking about what I said about Malik? I'm gonna call receipts. You and Jay from Hall of Fame said you do not want to see Malik come and play because you think he's going to shred y'all up. That's what you guys said. I think you were co-signing that. You were like,
good. I didn't say all that. Now.
That's what you're doing.
I'll be honest with you. I didn't say all of that. I'm just saying.
But
pump the brakes, people.
But I think our offense is going to be better this year. Just like I told people last year, I thought the offense last year was going to be better than the first year that Sark was there, for the simple fact that, for one thing, our offensive line last year was light years better than what Sark had his first year. And this year, our offensive line, in my opinion, is going to be better than what we've ever fielded. having a guy like Kelvin Banks, he is going to be a first-round pick after this year, guys. He's one of the top tackles in the country.
Why isn't he a junior and
Well,
draft
are you not
eligible?
worried
I'm
about
so
some of the
tired of
youth that you
seeing
have
him.
out there? 'Cause,
Huh?
I mean, you guys are relying on some pretty youthful guys.
What are you
Who've
talking
never
about?
really been there.
Where on the
Especially with
line?
the whole, especially with the whole, like, I'm not talking about the line. I'm talking about just like skill positions. Y'all are believing it. Colin Simmons is going to be out there. and
No,
be
Colin
that
Simmons is
guy.
going to be. He's going to be a rotational guy. He's not going to be the guy that's going to be counted on the start right away, just like Anthony Hill was last year. Now, as the season goes on, if Colin Simmons proves that he is that guy, game 6, game 7, of course, he's probably going to get more playing time there, but he's not going to start off starting. Like Anthony Hill didn't start off starting. He didn't eventually become the starter until about game 5 or 6 last year. And then we saw him be the guy that he was, and he was a freshman All-American, and he's that guy.
I'm glad
Right?
I heard it from you, but I'm just saying, man, it's a lot of production, a lot of different things, but everybody is sitting on your lap, no Diddy. So
Well,
I'll go ahead and
I've
let
been
y'all
I've
have
been
that.
grinding the all 22, right? And I was just curious about
What's
because
that?
I've always said like I referred to yeah, I know Michigan had like an unbelievable interior duo on their defensive line. But the Texas defensive line, they were so solid. But anytime I've watched Texas all 22 film,
Sweat's always in the backfield,
no,
or Byron Murphy.
I'll tell you who stands out. Listen, all respect to those two because they're both freakish.
Yeah.
Anthony Hill stands out to the most to me when I'm watching y'all's all 22 in terms of upside. I'm like, this guy is stupid, freaky good. Like
he's good.
He's going to be great. Yeah.
Look here, man. I want to address this comment here. You know, it says that line is going to get worn out without stud wide receivers. It's usually the opposite way around, my friend. Usually the wide receivers get worn out without a good line. That's why you see a lot of teams where there's NFL or college. If the line's good, they can put wide receivers in place that can make plays.
Lemon probably thinking about that Red River game when we was all over that ass. We was all
no,
over
and that's the crazy thing. Y'all handled that interior so well. I mean, it was teach tape with how y'all handled those two interior. It was really, really impressive to watch. I actually just went back and rewatched that game 2 nights ago on the all 22, and I was like, man, the Oklahoma offensive line. And that's to kind of full circle it. That's exactly why I might have a question about like, oh, Oklahoma has to replace all these pieces. Granted, Branson Hickman, huge portal pickup, especially because y'all had Everett get hurt. That guy's really, really good. Very highly graded, top 5 or top 10. Graded in terms of, I think he's top 5 in terms of.
But hey, look, for Becci, the kid, the transfer, that's gonna be our one of our guards from North Texas. Yeah, guy, he's gonna be the truth.
I hope, but I will say this: I went to UNT and they were
terrible.
So what? I said I went to UNT, and this isn't a comment on him, right? Obviously not, because I did. But God, when I was at UNT, they were terrible.
Hey, don't worry.
No, it's years after. They're 2 unrelated comments. It's
let's move on to the rest of the SEC. I'm tired of talking about this Texas trash.
Hold on, man. Hold on. We spent a whole lot of time on your sorry ass team, and I made some good comments.
A whole hour on Texas and OU. Let's keep it going, man.
Hey, Bama. Let's talk about Bama. And Ty was at the game, so Ty, give us a. Oh, man, Ty, I thought you were, man. I thought you were at the game. Ah, damn, man. But anyways, Jalen Milroe looked good, bro.
Yeah, Milroe. So here's the thing. If you look at the stats, you're not going to be super impressed. But he had 6 passes, like in a row, bop, 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 that got dropped. And in fairness, 2 of those were bang plays where the defensive back was right there making a great play. And so if you don't want to cause those drops, you want to say those are pass deflections. That's fair. But I'm encouraged, man. It's still early. And listen, if you want to talk, because I know y'all are talking, it's funny me listening to both of y'all because I have questions about, you know what? I'll even elevate it. I have concerns about Alabama's tackle position.
I do too.
I have concerns there. I think Proctor, we were playing him at like 365 pounds as a true freshman. That's ridiculous, right? Yeah. That's ridiculous. And if you look, he handled stunts perfectly. Like he handled the more advanced stuff really well, but the speed rush killed him time after time after time. I'm hoping that the shedding of weight will be big for him. Now, one thing, I don't know if you saw this, but I think it was like Pro Football Focus. They graded like the top 10 interior offensive linemen in the nation.
Yeah.
Bama's going to have 3 of
That's
the
good.
top 10 interior. Parker Brailsford is the highest graded returning center in all of college football. There goes Apple holding me down. This is a direct attack from Auburn. Then you have Tyler Booker, and then you have Jaden Roberts. I love that, but the tackles, I that's where I have a bit of concern.
Which
And
is
then,
so crazy, man, because you're so used to seeing Bama having 2 tackles always in the first and second round every year.
it's crazy, and they have, but over the past 3 years, Alabama has averaged the 99th offensive line in the nation in terms of sacks allowed. So they have not had a good offensive line since 2020. Like, they are
Kyle Flood.
overachieving since
Yeah.
Kyle Flood. Well, then they hired Doug Marrone, and that was
Yeah.
a disaster.
Yeah.
And Wolford turned it around year 1, and then this past year it really went bad. But that's because we had a center that kept snapping the ball at Jalen Milroe's feet. I mean, you look at the final game of the overtime for Alabama, the last play,
Was a ball at the feet.
he snaps it at Jalen Milroe's feet, and it's like and then Ryan Day has the gall to say,
He's gonna go get him.
quarterback cadence. No, did you hear what he said? He's like, oh, well, we haven't seen any snap issues. It's quarterback cadence. And I'm like, it doesn't matter who's back there. You got to get the ball from point A to point B. What does quarterback cadence have to do with snapping a damn ball? You could put a net back there. The ball has to get to the net. It doesn't matter. Like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Neither here nor there. The other area, I'm not concerned, but I have questions. Bama's very young in the secondary. Very talented, right? You're looking, Malachi Moore is going to be one safety, and I think he's going to really excel at that position.
Yeah,
Then you
Moore's
have
good.
Keon Sabb at the other safety. He was only 3 points behind a Caleb Downs, and really excited to see what he's able to do. But gentlemen, outside of that, I mean, you're looking at some really young players, and you granted Nick Saban's parting gift, as I've dubbed it, to Alabama was 3 5-star cornerbacks: Zabian Brown, Zay Mincy, and Jalen Mbakwe. And Jalen Mbakwe is very talented. Zay Mincy, so they're going to be playing. Luckily, we get Damani Jackson out of USC.
Oh yeah, Damani Jackson. I forgot
They were
you guys
doing
got
him a disservice at USC with
good.
the coaching.
Wow.
Like,
Okay.
it's terrible. It's terrible. I mean, he was getting coached up by terrible defensive back coaches, right? Like, let's call it what it is. He looked really good in the
Been
spring
there.
game.
We've been there.
Yeah,
We've
you
been
know
there.
what that is, right? You know exactly what that is, Chris. So, but guys, remember, he was the number 5 player in the nation. He ran a 10.25
ball, man.
in high school. That kid can fly. So Damani's the only cornerback right now you look at and you're like, okay, you have experience. The other is you have 3 5-stars that just came in, but they're freshmen.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in the secondary. In terms of linebacker, I think Bama's really solid at linebacker right now. I think they're going to have a top 10 duo in Jahad Campbell, Deontay Lawson. They both return. Lemon says, no, I love the new staff, Lemon. I think Kalen DeBoer was a great hire. He has overachieved everywhere he's been. If you look, he's 7-0 against Dan Lanning, Steve Sarkisian, and Lincoln Riley. And yeah, he's had some great pieces, but I would argue the other coaches have had, maybe not USC, but like Dan Lanning at Oregon had more talent just around the field than did Washington.
I think
Michael
this is
Penix,
this is the most talent that Calen's going to have pretty much his
Ever.
entire career.
and
ever.
he's like 104. He's 123 and like 14 in terms of overall. So really excited about this new staff. Though you are right, I was stressed out. So yeah, linebacker is exciting. There's a player I told you both about a long time ago. Came from Germany, right? Came from Germany. Justin Okoronkwo. Nino, you're going to like this. We ran a play. It was a jet. I know OU fans are going to get PTSD. The play is not bad, ladies and gentlemen. It was the usage of it. A jet sweep is not a bad play when it's called correctly, right? It's not a bad play. But they put Kendrick Law on a jet sweep, and Nino, you can attest to this. That kid's freaky athletic.
Lost my hometown, Shreveport, baby.
Freaky athletic. Justin Okoronkwo hawked him down at 225 pounds. He runs like a 4.45 40
Oh, yeah,
from
yeah, I saw
Germany.
it.
For number 41. Nick Saban said last year if he would have played in the United States, that was his first game in the United States, but Saban went on record being like he'd be a 5-star if he was over here. But he's green. He's going to need time. Defensive line, I really like what we have. LT Overton was a big-time addition. A&M played him out of position. Remember, they had him shed like 20, 30 pounds, and they put him at edge. He's more of a defensive end, defensive tackle. Alabama's going to deploy him at the Bandit, which is the new 4-2-5 Kane Womack speed or swarm defense. And it's interesting because Dave Womack and Gary Patterson, along with Nick Saban, are like fundamental in terms of some of the principles. Even though Nick Saban wasn't a nickel guy historically, they were fundamental in some of these principles that we all utilize now in 4-2-5 nickel defenses. And Kane Womack is Dave Womack's son. So really excited about him. We'll see how that looks. Excited about the defensive front, but yeah, it's a transition year. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's questions. I'm excited about the answers, but I think that the Alabama offense, if they can get the offensive line right, you have got elite running backs. You have 2 former 5-stars in Justice Haynes, Richard Young, plus Jam Miller. I don't need to tell you, Nick, about how talented Jam Miller is.
I love Jam Miller. I love some Jam Miller. East Texas beast, man.
Yes, sir.
Ty, I was going to say, can you just take a deep breath, right? Just take a deep breath, man. Just trust me on this. Just take a deep breath. Go ahead. Do it for the people. Do it.
Come on, Chris. What you doing, man? He was just about to break it down, man.
Do it, Ty. Come on, man.
Okay, what's up?
Take a deep breath, man. Because what I want you to do is just soak up that fresh offense that's coming. That fresh, just a bunch of fresh air coming up, bunch of fresh life coming to that offense. No longer do you have to sit there and say, well, this quarterback is just so dang smart because everything is on him. He has to make every call. The offensive coordinator doesn't do this. And then you get Tommy Rees is so multiple, but it's just like during the game, he doesn't know what he wants to focus on, right? So, man, I think it just helps you guys. And I think one of the things that helps you guys on offense a lot as well, I like Miller as a running back, man. I don't think that he's like the Bama standard, but I just something about him.
I think he's
Chris,
good,
have you seen this kid?
I've seen the kid.
No.
I just, I guess it's Tommy
Rees.
That
guy.
It's probably Tommy Rees. It was probably the way Tommy Rees used him.
Well,
Jam Miller's that guy.
So here's the crazy thing. Tommy Rees was 32 years old, right? Like he was still learning how to be an offensive coordinator. And then the part that I think really derailed him is that he didn't get to bring in his offense from Notre Dame. Because Nick Saban kept losing offensive coordinator after offensive coordinator, that Lane Kiffin and Steve Sarkisian formulated an offense for Alabama that was like, okay, you might not have like the deepest identity, but what you can do is be super multiple in terms of like whatever your personnels are, you can flow and you can find fluidity. But Tommy Rees is still learning how to be an offensive coordinator, and now you're saying, okay, while you're still learning that, now you got to abandon your offense, and now you have to learn the Alabama offense. On top of that, you've never worked with a quarterback like Jalen Milroe before. We don't have that issue anymore. Kalen DeBoer is an offensive guru, right? Kalen DeBoer is an offensive guru. Coach Shepard. Guys, I'm super excited for Coach Shepard, the wide receiver coach, really talented. And then a super under the radar hire Alabama made is Brian Ellis. He's the tight end coach there now. He was at Western Kentucky when Bailey Zappi was there, and they broke all those records. He was their offensive coordinator, passing game coordinator, and also quarterback coach. So you've got a lot of offensive pieces to really help Jalen Milroe. But you're right, Chris. I think that the Alabama offense, it's all on the offensive line, man. I know Frightening's asking me for a game total in terms of wins. Listen, I think Alabama's going to still be dangerous, right? Like, real dangerous. You've got a coach that has overachieved everywhere he's been. You have Jalen Milroe, who is the highest returning quarterback in terms of Heisman votes, and now he finally has a quarterback coach, which Alabama has not had since Sark and A.J. Milwee were here, not at least a quarterback coach that you believe in. And when I look at the wide receivers, Jeremy Bernard is going to be really, really good. He was someone Washington thought would be wide receiver 1 this past year, or this next year. Mm-hmm. Super sad Jalen Hale sustained that injury because he was in for a big year.
Hold on, he got hurt?
He got hurt. He got a pretty serious injury. Yeah.
Oh, man. I hate it for him because, man, Hale's a baller, man.
He was in for a big year. Now, the only thing
big kid, too, man.
Yeah,
Fast kid, big
here's the
kid.
thing. Bama got the number 1 tight end in the nation, depending on where you looked, right? Last season in recruiting, Caleb Odom, 6'5", 215 pounds, runs a 4 something, like a 4.5 flat, and this was in high school.
Yeah.
They've transitioned him to wide receiver, and it's already a really deep wide receiver room, and he's out there making plays.
That's good.
He's going to be tough to guard. But yeah, I think Alabama, in terms of do they beat OU? I don't know. So here's the thing, frightening. I don't know what everything's going to look like because Alabama's still getting guys back healthy. They're still getting guys from the portal. Our spring game wasn't the greatest measuring stick because we only had 10 offensive linemen active. And then Jaheim Otis wasn't to go. Jahad Campbell wasn't to go.
I like
so
Otis.
I love Otis. And Tim Keenan really took a step up. Yeah. And that leads with the loss of Saban.
Hey,
Ty, what's up?
This question right here, I gotta answer this, man. You know, from Stubby, he said Milroe reminds him so much of Vince Young. When Milroe came out of high school, okay, Vince was a different animal coming out of high school. He was one of the top rated guys coming out of high school ever, right? But I always said Milroe had something special about him. He was special, right? He was just a special kid. His season this past year reminds me so much of Vince's third year. Is scary. It's Texas won a couple games because of Vince's third year, right? But the team carried on. They went on to only lose one game for the season, right? And then they go to the Rose Bowl and they beat Michigan that year, right? Milroe doesn't have the best season to actually start off. And, you know, is he the guy? Is he not the guy? Do you need to move him to wide receiver or do you move him to running back? You know, could he be more special in, you know, like in the backfield and not throwing the ball? He overcomes all those obstacles. He becomes one of the best quarterbacks in the nation by like week 12, week 13. You have the Auburn miracle. Everything goes good. Man, I think this year, Milroe is going to be hell on wheels. And him and Kalen is going to be a marriage made in heaven. And that Alabama offense is going to be freaky good. Kalen hasn't had a guy that can run the ball like Milroe.
Nope. And he said something to him. I don't know if you caught this, Nino, and it's something that I think you're really going to love. He talked to Milroe at one point, and he also said it through he said, bro, but frightening, you know me, man. I'm very like objective and like I like collecting data and stuff, right? Like I'm not necessarily a hot take person. Of course, me being a Bama fan, like of course I'm gonna always ride with my squad, but you know me, I'm always gonna try and be as objective as possible because I like covering college football as a whole, right? Yeah. But here's what DeBoer said that I know you're gonna love. He was talking to the media and he was like, I talked to Jalen and he said, I appreciate how much you're working at becoming the best quarterback you can be. He said, but I told Jalen, don't forget that you have an ability that almost nobody else has, an ability that you need to utilize and don't shy away from it. Your legs.
Hey, let me tell you a story, right? So I'm talking to Hayden Conner's dad, right? You know, so Hayden Conner is Texas starting left guard, right? And we were at the Bama game, and it's Bama game or the OU game, but anyways, he was saying, "Hey, look, Milroe is a great kid, wonderful kid," and I remember coaching him, back in middle school. And we were losing the game by 20 or 30 points or something like that, right? And the head coach was just trying to make him pass the ball and just pass. He said, let that boy do what he does. He can run the ball. Let him run the freaking ball and let him pass out of running. They came back from 20 points down and won the game, right? And so, yes, if Kalen is telling him that, yes, you're going to be a great quarterback, but you're special. And your most special asset is your strength in your legs and your running ability. Go do you. You know what I'm saying? If he's telling them that, it's going to be scary, dude. It's going to be scary.
And as much as I like because you have Kobe Prentice, you have Kendrick Law, you have Caleb Odom, you have Jeremy Bernard. And Jeremy Bernard, I don't know if y'all saw it, he looked good in the spring game. Real good. Ryan Williams is not on campus yet, ladies and gentlemen. And that dude right there.
I forgot about Ryan Williams.
Reclassified and was the number 2 wide receiver in the nation as a junior. Ran a 10.4 as a sophomore. Oh, I'm so excited for Ryan.
Todd, this might be the year in the SEC where you see some freshman wide receivers come out and kick some ass this year.
I'm so excited.
Dude, Williams is going to be a monster once he gets on that field. You saw what Wingo did at Texas.
He's incredible. Wingo is incredible. I don't know if you saw the tweet I put out, and I was like, SEC fans, you need to know this kid's name. Because he's going to be a thorn in your side for years to come, is Wingo.
Yeah, and then, of course, you got your boys from OU. They always got some talent there. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, they always have wide receivers.
Every year. And so it's going to be – dude, I can't wait for this year.
Over there.
I do want to address one comment, though, because it's interesting. Brian's, he says, what happened to defense with championships, though? Outside of UGA, all I am seeing is a lot of move toward offense, and there's a lot of coaching and staff changes across the board in the SEC. Down year. I don't know about down year, but here's what I can say. The defense wins championships is still true. If we look since 2000 to now, there's only been 3 defenses rank outside the top 25 in scoring defenses win the national championship, with the major outlier being 2013 Auburn. Ironically, defensive coordinator was Ted Roof, and they were 46th in the nation. So even then, it wasn't like they were an awful defense, right? Like they were still a pretty darn good defense. It's just the other 2 teams that have won it was the Ohio State team, which came in at 32, and then you had LSU, which came in at 35. So you don't have to be the number 1 defense in the nation, but you cannot forego defense. Like, you still have got to have a really, really good defense. What we're finding is balance. And Michigan was number 1. They were great, yeah.
So, and if we may, Ty, I don't want to rush you, but are you done? Because I want to
go ahead. Yeah, there's just a lot of unknown for Bama, so it's not much for me to go into. Go ahead.
So first off, before we get to Georgia, should we talk about the Florida spring game or
Lagway looked good?
Lagway looked good. I think Graham Mertz statistically is a good quarterback.
He's better than I gave him credit for.
He's a lot better than I gave him. I thought it was going to be like total ass last year. He's pretty good.
Year 3 in this system because. And this one thing I am happy about, even though I still know that my head ball coach gets a lot of flack for no reason, for no reason at all. Granted, you see all the mistakes and all the bonehead decisions that Cristobal makes down there, and
my God,
Napier.
You remember
nobody talks about them. Well, nobody talks about them.
Hold on, give me a little bit of credit here, because I've said to you and on this show, on my show, that nobody deserves to be. Mario Cristobal needs to send Brent Venables an edible arrangement basket, because Brent Venables is getting all this heat for being a brand new head coach. Brand new. Meanwhile, Mario Cristobal is losing to 4-letter acronym teams, not kneeling the damn ball. And I completely agree with you there, Chris.
No,
he needs a gift basket sent
I'm just saying, I left, watching the Florida game, I left just, I don't really know what changed. I don't. Yeah. When I look at when I look at Georgia, I guess we can move to them. But when I go to Georgia, the first thing I think is like, damn, okay, because Rashada is going to go over there. I think that's kind of been signed, sealed, and delivered for a long time.
That's interesting, dude.
I don't think it messes with Beck.
No, it doesn't. No.
Yeah, because I Kirby Kurt. I mean, hell, we've seen this before. Jake Fromm, Justin Fields. We already know what he's going to do.
Kirby's stubborn.
Yeah, he's very stubborn.
But Beck's a good quarterback, though. Let's not hate. He's a good quarterback.
So this is my question about Georgia, and I think I saw a little bit of it in the spring game. I didn't watch too much of their spring game, but are we going to see them shift more? And I know you guys say they have talented tight ends, but are we going to see them shift more of the focus offensively to their wide receivers this year without Brock Bowers?
No.
Or what happens?
I don't know.
No.
I mean, obviously, no. I'm talking about the past.
It's still that offense is still. Oh my God, is it Bobo?
Yeah.
Bobo.
Yeah, it's still going to be the same. And it's a tough offense to stop. I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, anybody listening, I'm not sitting here telling you, oh my God, it's some killer offense that you're just sweating playing. What I mean it's tough to stop is that they're very methodical in what they do, right? Like, they're very principled in being like, okay, we have this option, we have this option, we have this option. It's a little bit, boring's a strong word, but I think y'all know what I mean when I say boring, right? It's almost like a factory. Like it's just like if it's not here, it's very methodical. Whereas like Sark is super explosive. I'm interested in seeing what Latrell is doing, but he's very explosive. DeBoer's very explosive. Theirs is almost like a factory where it's just like everything just keeps on moving. It's not the most scary offense, but like.
But look, people don't choose just because Brock Bowers is gone. Please don't sleep on Oscar Delp.
Oh, he's incredible. Yeah.
I mean, he might not be Brock, but Oscar Delp is one of those guys who next year you might be talking as the best tight end in college football next year. He's that damn good, y'all. He's really good. You know, to be honest with you, I think the Georgia offense opened up a lot more when Brock was out because they
had to. They had to.
No, but that's what I'm getting at. Is that it's Oscar Delp's gonna get a lot of touches this year. Yeah. It's going to get a lot of touches this year, but that offense might be more deadly this year because you don't have nobody just a single point on. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, it's going to be interesting.
And here's the reason why I mentioned the wide receivers is simply because they have so much damn speed out there
all the time.
All the time,
dudes. Man, Kirby is loaded.
But it's on Beck to really take them to another level. And Ty. I am not sure. Now, last year this time, what did I tell you, Ty? And nobody ever came back to this point. But what did I tell you, Ty? Whenever y'all beat them in the SEC championship, I told you. I said, hands down, y'all have the better roster. Y'all have the better roster. Y'all have the better coaching, and I think it's going to show this year. Y'all were the best team in the SEC, in my opinion, last year. Outside of the Texas game, by far best team in the SEC, and it showed during that game. Right now, though, not necessarily comfortable enough to really make that prediction because I think y'all are even right now. I think you and Georgia are even, and rightfully so. Y'all should be the cream of the crop going to the SEC. That was a hell of a game that was played last year, but I'm not comfortable enough to say that yet. Still want to see some things get ironed out on your side. Defensively, y'all are replacing some guys, but I mean, y'all not. We could say we just reloading.
Yeah, but like. We got to replace some dudes, right? Yeah. No doubt about it. Like, luckily we get Sab, and I'm not saying that replaces Caleb Downs, but it certainly softens the blow because he's got real high upside. So we'll see.
My only thing with Georgia is Georgia's play calling towards the end of the season was so suspect. It was just some of the play calls they were doing is like, what the hell are you doing, man? You know what I'm saying? You have all this talent. Even in the SC championship game, I'm thinking when they were backed up, right, Todd? And I'm like, what the hell y'all? What's a sweep doing here? I mean, like, come on, what are you doing? Like, why is a lad out there? He can barely walk. Put somebody, you know what I'm saying? It was like, what are you doing out there? You know what I'm saying? So sometimes coaches get kind of too stubborn for their own good. You know, and I was glad that Bama just took that game away from them, to be honest with you.
And that's a game that I felt like how Steven felt.
Yeah.
About after Bama, he's like, man, we left meat on the bone. I've gone back and watched that so many times, and I'm like, yo, we could have.
Well, shit. Like you guys had, didn't you have like somebody streaking up the sideline? And I think Miro just missed them. Golly, I think it was a wheel route.
Yep.
Golly.
And they dropped. Well, not only that, they dropped. Not like, oh, you should have had it. I mean, the ball hit
like
them
in your hands. Yeah.
5 interceptions.
Yeah.
5.
Yeah. So that game could have went. That game could have went out of play real quick. But man, I think Georgia's still gonna be Georgia. What's their schedule look like first off before I start making something? Let me see what Georgia's schedule is gonna look like. I don't think their schedule's that tough either this coming up here. Well, hold on. They got Clemson, first game.
Mm-hmm.
Third game's Kentucky. Fourth game's Alabama.
Then they got some bums that 7th game.
Yeah, Bama draws Georgia real quick. And I'm excited about that. Y'all know how I feel about getting those.
Hey, man, Georgia got a schedule this year.
They got
a pretty decent schedule, man.
They got some bums on that. I think that 7th game of the season. That's what I want to say.
Whatever, man.
They got a schedule this year, man.
Hey, yeah, you're right. They got Clemson. They got Kentucky. That's in game 3. You got Alabama on game 4. You got Auburn. Hold on, man. Mississippi State.
You said Kentucky. Shut up, man. Come on, man. Stop playing. Every year we believe that.
I'm just saying. Game 3, Kentucky, where Kentucky's not beat up because they don't have the depth that everybody else has in the SEC.
And they can't overlook Kentucky because they have Bama next week in Bryant-Denny.
It can be a very interesting game with Kentucky being at full strength. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. It's going to be a very interesting game. But you got that. Then so after Bama, you got Auburn, which is in Georgia. Then you got Mississippi State. They should beat those 2 teams.
Yeah.
Then you got Texas going to Texas. Then you got off week, then going to Florida, and then you got Ole Miss at Ole Miss. Then you got Tennessee at home.
Site.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm sorry, Jacksonville. I'm sorry. Yeah, and then so you got Ole Miss at Oxford. Then you got Tennessee back at Athens, and then you got UMass, and then Georgia Tech. So. Hey, Clemson is the first game of the season. It's not going to be easy. Having Kentucky, it's a 3rd game, and 4th game Bama, and then 7th game Texas, then Ole Miss as the 9th game, 10th game Tennessee. They got a pretty decent schedule, man. It's the first time in a while that they've had a pretty decent schedule.
It's the toughest schedule they've had in a minute.
I'll tell you a team too, and they're on our schedule, but to kind of look out for. I would say Missouri. Missouri has a chance to be better than what they were last year, but they also have a chance to be Tennessee of this past season. Which
I think they're going to be the last.
You're going to be the
latter.
Bottle. Yeah, you're a lightning bottle team simply because watching their spring game, still explosive offensively. I think Theo Weiss is a great. He's paired greatly with Burden up there, but. The problem is, man, I don't like their offensive line at all, man. I saw if that was a real game, I think Cook would have been on a stretcher going out because he was getting touched an awful lot. But then again, it looked like they put him with almost looked like they put him with the 2s. I don't know if that was the 1s or not.
Yeah.
But the offensively, man, they got some guys. Defensively, it still looks like they're trying to figure some things out. So I mean, it's early in spring, so we'll see there, but. They didn't show me anything. And I'm just like, oh my God, like Missouri's going to take over the world. They have all the, if you're betting on them, it's a high risk, high reward because they have all the spellings of being a lightning in the bottle team.
Exactly. So who's going to be the starting running back now that Schrader's gone? Because that's going to be hard to replace 1,800 yards rushing.
Throw the bag at Dylan Edwards.
For real?
No, you know what though, Ty? You remember, like group text, we were talking about Dylan Edwards, and I said, look, he's 170 pounds. I don't know if he fits the Colorado system because they don't have an offensive line, right?
Yeah, very fair.
But you're right though. If he goes to Missouri's pretty stout in the line. They play an offense that's wide open. He's going to get a lot of good damn receptions, man, because those wide receivers are going to stretch people across the field like crazy.
And he can just doop.
He can just, oh my God. Now that might be something.
That'd be sick.
That might be something. Oh yeah, I like that idea, to be honest with you. I didn't even think about Missouri for him.
That'd be sick,
awesome.
Yeah.
I like K-State an awful lot.
Oh, I do too.
I do too.
I like K-State would make all the sense in the world. Kleiman is a great coach.
He's a good coach, but oh man, with Texas and OU leaving the Big 12, man, like it's going to be a fun league.
It'd be funny
how many
if he goes to Utah. Just for the simple fact of like Utah, and I don't mean like it'd be the greatest fit. I just mean it'd be funny because if you're asking me what team is poised to take over the Big 12,
it's Utah.
I like Utah, and it's just funny because they come in the same year as Colorado, and it'd kind of just be like the thorn in the side.
Dude, I love,
but I don't think it's the bet. I don't think it's the best fit.
No, but look, I like that Missouri pick. That's a nice pick. That's a nice pick. He's just so undersized, man. What do you see? 165 pounds, 170 pounds. They were at 5'9", 170 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It was what it was. All right, so Ryan Lemon goes, good to see you guys. Always fun. Oh, yeah, you're going to sleep. You know what I'm saying? Ryan Lemon must be old.
I'm old.
Hey man, but no, I mean, there were some decent spring games that were played, man, across the country. And those were some that I definitely watched, definitely highlighted. I think going back to the Florida piece,
Yeah.
they just don't wow me. They don't awe me. They don't give me like, oh my gosh, I got a lot of belief in this team. To me, I think at best they could be like a 7, and they have a
Brother,
tough.
if they make a bowl game, they need to build a statue of Billy Napier outside that stadium.
And call it Sunbet Billy.
I forgot about that because I was just gonna say they didn't really do anything that wows me, but I feel like they're gonna be a hard out for some teams. I feel like they're gonna cause trouble to the point where you may have to separate from them in the second half. That's I just don't know, man.
Yeah. But fellas, man, look, it's been about an hour and 40 minutes. And I'm tired. And the playoffs on too, man. The playoffs on. I just saw that the Heat beat the Celtics, man. They tied the series up. Yeah, what man. My dad just texted me. He's like, hey, man, the Heat just beat the Celtics. What's up with the Celtics?
I got to go watch this Pelicans game.
Yeah, I'm going to go watch that too, bro. But hey, man, hey, everybody, like, comment, subscribe, man. Next week, same time, same bat channel. We're going to be talking about something else, man. Probably some transfer portal stuff. But hey, man, like, comment, subscribe, and go follow everybody's channel that's on here. We out. Deuces and horns always up.